Molly Superthorpe. Thank you for your interest in my Calligraphy Composition Maker, a powerful kit containing 65 Procreate brushes so that you can make calligraphic compositions of your own and practice calligraphy on the iPad. In this video, I'm going to give you a preview of everything that's inside this kit and how to use the different types of brushes, whether they're the stamps or the layout templates or the pattern brushes. As an added bonus, I've included this layered Procreate file that contains 3 different calligraphic alphabets, and you can also practice your flourishes with this filled-in flourish practice sheet. If you already own this kit, I hope this video helps you make the most out of it. And if you're just thinking of buying it, I hope that this video helps you make the most informed decision possible. I am a calligrapher who's been doing calligraphy and teaching calligraphy for over 10 years. So one thing that I really craved and that I felt was missing from the market was an iPad set that really made it easy for calligraphers to learn different styles and learn some of the really technical aspects of ink on paper calligraphy. I didn't really see that translated into the iPad yet. The first thing you're going to notice when you open up this brush palette is that each of the brushes has a really descriptive, specific title. So I'm actually going to start by breaking down the information in each brush title. So let's come here to the very top one, Copperplate 55 degrees. Well, copperplate is a very traditional calligraphic style, and so this letter guide, which by the way is the first one that you see here on your screen as a sample, this very first one is a traditional ratio and slant for copperplate calligraphy. So the 55 degrees here literally refers to the 55 degree slant that run through the guide. This modern 72 degrees has a 72 degree angle slant. And you can see down here on this one that we have a completely upright 90 degree slant. So these 3 examples on your screen represent 3 very different slant lines. The next thing you'll notice in the titles is the ratio. So this top one is a 3:2:3 ratio. This one here is 2:3:2:3. And this one here is 1:1:1. So let me explain to you what that means. Let's start with the easiest to understand. That's the 1:1:1 ratio. These ratios refer from top to bottom to the ratio of the heights of these bars. So this is called the ascender height, this is called the X height, and this is called the descender height. So 1:1:1 means that the height of the ascender and the X height and the descender are all equal to each other. Now let's move up here to this top one, the copperplate, that was a 3:2:3 ratio. You can think of this in 2 different ways. That either means that the X height is 2/3 that of the ascender height, or you can think of it as the ascender and descender, which are the same height, are 1.5 times the size of the X height. All you have to know when it comes to this is that when you see a ratio where the X height is shorter than the ascender and the descender, your lettering is going to be a little bit more elegant, a little bit more formal, a little bit more traditional looking. You can see immediately that this region being a smaller ratio compared to this height and this height yields a much fancier, more formal style. And now lastly, we have the style that has 4 bars. But again, we just move from top to bottom. But what is this top bar? Here we still have ascender, X height, and descender. But this top bar is called a cap height. Cap as in capital letter. So any letter guide that you see like this is giving you directions for how to create lettering that has a different height for the uppercase letters than for the ascender letters. So here we have our uppercase letter coming up to the cap height. We have an ascender letter, this T, coming to the ascender height. Letters A and Y that come up to the X height. And we have a Y, which is a descender letter, coming down to the descender line. Here, I have written the word calligraphy 3 times using basically the same letter forms, but the words look completely different, and the only reason is because the ratios are different and the slants are different. When I turn off the grid, you can see it even more. All that I did was use 3 different guides, and I yielded 3 completely different looks and styles. One other thing I want to point out is that for every calligraphy guide bar that I've given you a brush right beneath it that has 4 in a single stamp, so that basically if you want to create a practice sheet for yourself, you can just stamp once and you have a whole practice sheet right here. The next type of stamp I have given you are these types of paper line stamps. So we have schoolhouse cursive, notebook paper, which is just base lines basically, graph paper, dot grid. I called this type of line schoolhouse cursive because when I was in elementary school and we were learning cursive, we all got notebooks that were lined just like this. After the different types of lined papers, I've given you all sorts of radial guides, and these are great for making round calligraphy or even mandalas. And after that, there's a set of 4 different flourish frame drills. So let's do a demonstration using the elliptical ones. This is a great way to train your hand with some muscle memory to create flourishes in your letters or just decorative illustrative flourishes, whether it's on the iPad or ink on paper. So I have my calligraphy brush, and what I'm going to do is create flourishes that fill these frames and make sure that the extreme points of my flourishes touch the edge of each shape. And I can have a lot of fun and make all sorts of different flourishes, really challenge myself to make different shapes. Next, after the flourish frames, I have my dotted line maker, and this is a really cool brush that you're going to be able to use to customize or make your own guide sheets. So this is a brush that draws in dotted lines, and the dotted lines adhere to the size of your brush. But what's especially cool is that because of Procreate's snapping feature, where if you draw a line and then you don't lift your stylus, you can move the end point of your line, either condensing and shortening the line, lengthening it, or giving it a slant of your choice, right? And if I do that on a blank layer, then what I'll be able to do is create, let's say, a slant line that I prefer, and then I can just duplicate it for myself. And here you can just have a lot of fun, like I say, making your own grid lines. Next, you have here a bunch of shapes, a circle and 2 ovals and a square and 2 rectangles, and these fit into the ratios of 1:1, that's a circle, or 4:5, which is the same as 8:10, and 2:3, which is the same as 4:6. The 3 most common composition ratios, so I've given them to you pre-made because it can be hard in Procreate to get perfect shapes like that. Now the next set is probably my favorite, and these are the layout templates. And I have them here with different ratios, again, to fit in a square or to fit in 8:10 composition. And you can see that I've provided them with slanted lines so that you can create real calligraphy in these shapes. So I didn't get very creative in this, I just wrote the numbers 1 through 10, but I wanted to show you that you can use slanted calligraphy, you can use entirely lowercase calligraphy, you can make a different lettering style combined with your calligraphy, you can do upper or lower, anything that you'd like under the sun. This is just a great jumping off point for your composition layout. After all of these fun layouts, I have all of these ribbon brushes for you. One way that I actually like to use them is to trace on a new layer the actual outline of the ribbon banner so that the outline itself can become part of my final design, and then write inside of it my own calligraphy. And next up are pattern brushes. And while all the brushes in this kit are fun for me, there's something almost magical about painting with patterns in Procreate. Here I have my first pattern brush, and I have it set to the largest possible size that a brush can be, because when you're painting with patterns, you don't want to lift your pen as you go. If I lifted now and I kept going, like here, you can see that basically the pattern starts again and you get an overlapping pattern. So if you're trying to paint an entire canvas with the same pattern, just put your pen down in one place and don't lift until you've covered the whole page. Now I can hit my selection tool and I can still enlarge this to have larger baselines, or if I tap and hold the blue dot in the center top of my design, I turn on what's called shearing, and I can move this to the left to decrease my slant, or move it to the right to increase it. I can move this up, move this down to condense the grid. Basically, I want you to understand that even when you paint with a pattern, it doesn't have to result in a grid right out of the box. You can still customize it even further. Let's paint one more so that you can get another idea. This is my wave baseline brush, and one cool thing you could do with this is create really long, wavy, loose, simple calligraphy. And now if I turn off the wavy baseline, you see that I have this really cool, funky, sort of ribbon-like look. And if you keep going and make multiple lines of waves, you can get these really intricate, beautiful patterns that I can imagine being absolutely gorgeous for a layout like a wedding invitation or a manuscript. For those of you looking to use this kit to learn new calligraphic styles, I have also provided you a layered Procreate file of practice sheets, which include 3 different calligraphic alphabets. Each folder contains my own calligraphic alphabet, plus a layer of the guidelines used. And then there's a blank Draw Here layer for you to do your own calligraphy. I've provided fancy style, a more modern casual style, my schoolhouse cursive uppercase, and one filled-in sheet of flourish drills so that you can have some direction as you get started. And the very last thing I want to bring to your attention is that along with your download, you're going to receive this layered Procreate file. This contains exemplars of every single brush in the kit, all 65 of them. So you'll be able to go through and get a preview quickly of what every single brush looks like. Thank you so much for following along. I hope this kit provides you endless hours of fun, and if you create any calligraphy compositions that you share on social media, please tag me because I always love to see what people create from my brushes, my tutorials, and my books.